Welcome to the final video of this running course. In this video, we're going to continue talking about recovery and prevention of injuries. And as an extension of this concept of active recovery from injuries, I want to talk about weightlifting. Sometimes when people run, they think that weightlifting isn't important for them, but weightlifting or resistance training is one of the keys to running health. It's actually really amazing how much it can help runners. And I have plans to make another course on resistance training for runners that will go more in depth, but in this course, I'll just briefly talk about some of the most important points. Resistance training is a major part of recovering from injuries and also preventing them in the first place. One of the reasons for this is when you do resistance training, you're increasing the strength of the muscles and the density of your bones and the capability of your other body tissues. If you're not familiar with strength training, I recommend doing a little research. Find someone who can help you get started, like a friend or a personal trainer. But I'm gonna give you a few exercises that I highly recommend for any runners. And at the very least, I would suggest strength training at least 2 times a week and trying to work all of your major muscle groups. A little note about this, when you're weight training, if you have concerns about your bone density or you just want to optimize your strength gains and your protection against injuries, I recommend separating your weight training from your running or walking. There's several reasons for this, but number 1 is after 20 steps or so, your bones lose their sensitivity to the load you're putting on them. What I mean by that is when you exercise, whether it's endurance focused or weightlifting, you're putting stress on your bones, and if given the appropriate rest, your bones can grow back stronger. But what happens as you run is the mechanoreceptors in your bones get desensitized. And after about 20 steps, they stop registering the strain you're putting on your bones. So you're doing the work, but you're not getting the credit for it when it comes to your bones getting the signal that they need to build back stronger. That's one of the reasons runners often have lower bone density than other athletes. Fun fact, it takes 4 to 8 hours for your receptors in your bones to resensitize. So it's really smart to get that weightlifting in at a different time in the day than the run. It also allows time for your body to build up the energy stores so that you can lift better and develop more strength. With that said, is it bad to weightlift and run in the same workout? Not necessarily, but knowing about this phenomenon allows you to take action against it if it applies to you, if you know that you in particular may have a bone density issue, osteopenia, osteoporosis, things like that. A great way to apply this principle is to do your running in the morning and then after you work, do a few reps of weightlifting. If you're too busy and you can't make that work, I still recommend getting the weightlifting in. Just know that the ideal is to separate them where you're performing them 4 to 8 hours apart. So without further ado, here's a few exercises I recommend for runners that you can do to get started. Number 1, squats. Squats are one of the foundational lifts for runners because they're a power lift. When done right, they're employing muscles all over your body and they're metabolically demanding, meaning they use a lot of energy. Running requires strong leg and core muscles, and squatting is the perfect exercise to help you get stronger on both of these fronts. So here are my tips for a good squat. Have your feet shoulder width apart. Point your toes straight ahead or slightly out. As you squat down, keep your knees lined up with your toes and try to keep your knees from buckling in. Make sure that you're bringing your butt down rather than just bending at your hips. As you squat, pay attention to make sure that you're keeping your spine straight. That means your head's not looking down, it's not looking up, but just looking straight ahead. As you go down and your torso leans forward, that might mean you're looking at the floor about 6 feet ahead of you. Also pay attention to your low back. Stick your chest out and your butt out as you go down if you find you have a tendency to curve your back as you go down. We want to avoid over-curving the spine in either direction. Little note here, a lot of you will find that you don't have the flexibility to go down all the way while you're keeping your back straight. That's okay. The flexibility will come as you push into that position more and more. If this is the case, I recommend performing a squat with little to no weight until you can develop the flexibility you need. So this brings up a question. How far down should I go in my squat? Well, this is actually up to you and your ability. If you find you can go down to just below parallel, where your quads are parallel with the ground, that's great. That's the standard for most squats. If you need to do a little mini squat where you only go down part of the way, you can do that at first and work into the deeper squat. For me, if you can safely go down further than parallel, I recommend doing that because it puts a greater strain on your knee tendons. Now some of you are saying, wait, I've heard you should always keep your knees behind your toes when you squat, and going deeper than parallel will make me break that rule. You make a great point. A lot of people say that, including some trainers and physical therapists, but the reason they say that is because it puts a greater strain on your knee tendons, and that can lead to injury if you're not ready for it. But if your body is ready and adapted for it, it actually will help you fortify against knee injuries in the future. So here's how you can tell if this is something that's right for you. Number 1, start slow. When you first start squatting, don't use any weight and only go down part of the way or to parallel. Do this consistently and pay attention to knee pain. If after a week or so of doing squats consistently, you notice some knee or other pain as you squat, pare it back a little. Don't go as deep or start doing fewer squats. There's a lot of ways to decrease the load on your tendons, but don't stop. Just pare back a little till you find an amount of difficulty that you're ready for and build up slow. If you do find that you're ready to do more after a few weeks, start adding weight. You can slowly progress by adding more and more weight, going deeper in your squat, and doing more sets or reps. I recommend doing 3 sets of 10 squats as a good number to start out for all of these exercises. So try that out and you can adjust yourself from there. Number 2, lunges. My second exercise recommendation is lunges. This is a really nice exercise because it replicates running a little bit better than exercise where your feet are together like squats. That single leg aspect of lunges can really help your balance and stability during running. So here's what I recommend. Take a very big step forward where you have one foot ahead of the other, keeping your hips lined up with your knees, lined up with your toes. Start to bring your back knee toward the ground. As you do this, try to maintain good posture. Your back heel will need to come up off the ground, but be sure that back forefoot stays on the ground still. Now there's a temptation for some people to turn their back foot as they go down to squat. We want to try to avoid that. Keep your body lined up, and if you can't go all the way down to touch your knee to the ground, just do a mini lunge. We're going to progress these in a very similar way that we did the squat. Start without weight, maybe don't go all the way down at first, and over time you can go deeper and start to progress the weight if you feel injury-free. And be sure to do both sides. Like the squat, I'm gonna say start out with 3 sets of 10 of these, maybe 2 times a week, and I'll let you adjust from there. Number 3, rows. A lot of people don't think that upper body work is important to running, and I'm here to tell you that that is not true. As 2-legged animals, we use our arms for walking or running by swinging them in opposite directions from our legs. We already talked about that a little bit in a previous video. But rows can help you develop better posture as you run. It'll also help you to maintain that arm swing and make it more powerful. You can use a row machine at the gym, you could use dumbbells or a resistance band. But as you row, start with your arms extended in front of you. Pull back, maintaining good posture, and squeeze your shoulder blades together. Then, slowly guide your arms back into extension. If you're performing this with dumbbells or some other weight, I recommend doing it one arm at a time and having the other arm and knee on a bench to help support your weight. Again, I'd say start with 3 sets of 10 and you can adjust from there. Number 4, planks. I mentioned before that a strong core is key to good running, and planks are an awesome way to strengthen your core. So to do a plank, you weight bear on your forearms and your toes, keeping your legs, hips, and back as straight as possible, much like a wooden plank. Hold this position for as long as you like. I recommend starting out with 20 to 30 seconds and doing 3 sets. If you do need to make this easier, you can put your knees down and keep the rest of your body straight, or you could go for less time. If you need to make it harder, you can always put weight on your back or your hips. Number 5, deadlift. Much like the squat, this is a power lift, and I think it's indispensable to any runner. I'm gonna say a good squat is a prerequisite to this lift, so I don't recommend starting until you feel like you've mastered your squat. When you do start deadlifting, start with very low weight and go from there. To perform a deadlift, get your shins close to the bar, have your feet shoulder width apart, squat down, keeping your back straight till you can reach the bar. Holding onto the bar and maintaining good posture, stand up, ensuring that you fully straighten your hips. From here, you can either drop the weight if you're in a gym that allows that, or slowly bring the weights back down to the ground, maintaining the same good posture. As you lift, don't allow your shoulders to roll forward too much. Try to squeeze those shoulder blades together because that helps you maintain better posture through the lift. Start with 3 sets of 10 and very low weight and go from there. Number 6, band walks. This exercise requires an elastic resistance band. You can get one from Walmart or another store, and I'll include a link to some you can buy on Amazon below in this video. Your gym also might have some that you can use. But to do this exercise, place the band around your knees and maintaining a partial squat, start walking sideways, slow and controlled. Push outward with your hips to keep your knees from collapsing in as you walk. I think a good place to start is 10 feet one way and 10 feet back. Next, walk forward, still keeping your knees apart from each other. As you take each step forward, bring your feet to the outside, so each step is wider than a normal step would be for you. Be sure to continue to push outward with your hips to keep your knees from collapsing in. Again, go 10 feet forward and 10 feet back for starters. As you get stronger, you can add more sets, get a stronger band, make your feet wider apart, or go a further distance. With these exercises, keep in mind that I'm mostly focusing on your lower body because that's where most running injuries happen, but that doesn't mean you should neglect your upper body. It needs love too. And I recommend finding a weightlifting routine that will help strengthen your whole body, even though these exercises are very running specific. Again, I'm planning on making a course that goes into more depth on weightlifting, so look for that in the future. Lastly, a lot of people ask, do I need a gym to do this? And the answer is, yeah, a gym is really helpful, but if that doesn't work for your finances or for other reasons, you can definitely start all on your own without a gym. You can do almost all of these as bodyweight exercises, and you could use items around your house to add a little extra weight. Be creative, but also be safe. As you progress to getting stronger and stronger, I really do recommend getting access to some weightlifting equipment, whether it's at your gym or even in your house, because it'll allow you to lift heavier weights more safely, which is very valuable to a runner. If you have any questions about weightlifting, please be sure to reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook. Feel free to DM me or add a comment in one of my posts, and I'll try to be pretty responsive. We've talked a lot about loading throughout this course and about how we need to be progressive about how we load our bodies. Weightlifting is really cool because it can kind of be a cheat code to improving your body's ability to load certain tissues. It can improve your tissue strength faster and better than a lot of other types of exercise. For this and 1,000 other reasons, weightlifting is one of the very most important things that I recommend to runners to prevent injuries. I hope you enjoyed this course, and most importantly, I hope you found it helpful, and I hope you refer back to these videos frequently because they provide some neat tools, but in order for them to help you at all, it's gonna require consistency on your part. You're gonna need to practice a ton. So rewatch, take notes, do whatever you have to do to let this course change you. If you have questions, feel free to message me at my email address. I'd love to add additional videos to this in the future to help add value to you. But until then, I will see you guys out on the roads, and keep running, my friends.